What is good, guys? Welcome back to another HFP video. My name is Ben Thomas. Along with me is Ryan, Will, and Matt. Today, we are talking about the future plans for the NBA and the MLB. So we're just going to get right in it.
He drops that one to deep center field.
Well, wait.
And Ryan, take us away.
All right, guys. So as you know, the NBA has come up with a plan to finish the season and the playoffs. And so we're just going to go right ahead and ask some questions about what everyone thinks about it, if it's a good plan, and just their return. So I'm going to start off with Will. As you know, they're going to be finishing the season in Disney's Wide World of Sports complex in Orlando, Florida. So do you think their plan to finish just in that location is sufficient, and do you think it'll work?
I think I think there's gonna need to be certain restrictions that need to be put on. Obviously, they're going to have safety measures in place, but I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's going to be easier for them rather than MLB, because MLB you're traveling still. They're still going to have to travel, but the fact that having them all in that contained space, even with tests, it's going to be hard to keep everyone safe. And as you guys have seen recently in the news, there have been more and more cases popping up through stars because they're trying to get back to their normal. So, I mean, we're hoping for the best, but I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for them to get through the full playoffs.
I agree.
Without anyone getting sick.
Yeah, it will be a challenge. Matt, so as you know, it's a player's option to opt out of going to Orlando to finish the season. So how big of an issue will it be if you have a team member that opts out, and whether they have a big impact on your team or not, how big of an issue will it be if teams are losing players because they don't feel comfortable with playing?
I think it would be a huge issue because, say you got like LeBron opting out of playing, he's a big part of that Lakers team. So that could impact the rest of their season in the playoffs. So I think the players opting out is a major part of this whole.
Yeah, one of the Lakers players actually did just opt out the other day.
Avery Bradley.
Yeah. And they were saying like J.R. Smith might replace him, or there's a couple free agents that.
Yeah, but again, there's a big difference. Like Avery Bradley's not as big as a deal as like LeBron or anything.
But
so
sometimes
it still hurts the team, but not as much.
Sometimes during the playoffs, these players that aren't well known and don't do good work during the regular season, sometimes they're the ones that make a difference.
That's true.
Have big games, yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Ben, so Florida's cases recently, this is recently, of COVID has spiked. Would you feel comfortable not only playing there, but moving your family into this Orlando so-called bubble, because you're there for the season? So would you feel comfortable going there, especially if
if I was a player or something, I would feel comfortable. Again, like there are a ton of like the NBA, they have a plan and they're like they're gonna try their best to keep social distancing. Obviously, basketball is not the most social distancing sport, but I just feel like the NBA has precautions. Yes, obviously it's a risk. It's obviously a bigger risk than just regular basketball if there was no coronavirus. However, personally, I would feel like semi-comfortable, not 100%, but I feel like the NBA has enough precautions right now.
Yeah. And this final question, everyone can put their input in on it. Would this be a fair win for whomever wins the finals championship?
I think it would, because they've played basically their full season So you've really seen like what teams have dominated and what teams have not. So a
I
winner
kind of
is gonna be
agree with
easier.
you on that. However, I said this in a previous video talking about sports, but to me, home field advantage is, or home court advantage in this case, that's everything. So, like, say it's like the Lakers and the Bucks, they're playing in Florida instead of LA or Milwaukee. Like, I think that while it is a neutral site, I still feel like, say the Lakers are playing at home, like that could mess up their opponent.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
just feel like that's a huge component.
I agree with you on that part, Ben. But I do think they played mostly their full season, like Matt said. So their seeding is going to be basically
Yeah,
the same
seeding's
as it
not
would have
great.
been, which means they're still playing full series. So I think whoever wins this championship earns this championship. There has been some time off,
That's fair.
obviously. So teams that are hot may stay hot. We don't know if they're going to stay hot or not, which they probably won't. Like the Miami Heat going into when we had to shut down were on fire.
Yeah.
But they're one of those teams that they don't have a lot of like key players. Yeah, they got Bam Adebayo, a couple other good guys, but I don't think that they're not a good enough, well-rounded team. So their chances now decrease. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, it's
I think
definitely
whoever
different
wins is well earned, though.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, definitely, I agree with that for NBA because MLB it's a little different of a situation because you're going in
Right.
without playing any games of the season. So,
Yeah.
whereas at NBA, you played the most part of your season. Now you're going in for mostly the playoffs. So, but yeah, at least they're having a season. But those
very
are our
true.
questions
Better than
for
nothing.
the NBA. Let us know in the comments what you think for that specifically, and then we'll take it over with MLB, who finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks, have come to a decision.
Thank God.
So as you guys might have known, yesterday, because today is Wednesday the 24th, yesterday the 23rd, the MLB pronounced the MLB season is planning to return with spring training on July 1st and opening day on July 24th, which includes a 60-game season, and expanded playoffs. So, I'm going to kind of put you in a hypothetical situation, Matt. If you were Rob Manfred in this time, do you think you would have? I know they already decide what they're doing, but would you have followed something similar, or would you have gone on a different path to making this season playable?
I think I would have just agreed with Manfred. It's a really tough call. The spiked cases in some states have gone down. No one really knows. I think his judgment wasn't the worst, but I think overall that was probably the best route to go with a 60-game season and expanded playoffs.
Right. So with this 60-game season and expanded playoffs, there's going to be a lot less opportunity, less plate appearances, less pitching appearances. Yep. So that's going to change the numbers of the game. So people are talking, will there be a 400 average season? Someone that has a 400 average this season. That's probably one of the biggest things on people's minds right now is the stats and how it's going to affect and play a role in history. So with that being said, Ben, do you think that, or where do you think that the top team is going to land? What do you think the record's going to look like? And what do you think like the best player's going to look like? Like what numbers do you think you're going to see this season?
Well, baseball is one of those sports where literally anything could happen. Right. You could have one of the worst teams beat one of the best teams on any given day. So, again, like with this 60-game season, instead of like 180, you're only playing a third of the games. Therefore, like, I don't know, one team could go on like a 15-game win streak, and that could jack up their like rankings or whatever.
Because that would be a fourth of the season.
Huge. Yeah, exactly. Like they could go win 15 games straight, and that's already a fourth of the season. So that just boosts their numbers up because sometimes teams are hot and sometimes teams are cold, and it all depends where you fall, especially during this time. And with the players, just like I said, same thing with the teams. Like you could have JD Martinez go 0 for 30 and his average will plummet. But again, that's all part of the game with hot and cold. So it all depends.
Right. So I saw something on ESPN yesterday that said, and it was all the analysts, and they were predicting the highest win total to be around 40, 43, even 45, someone said. So that's only losing 15 games, which is like –
that sounds crazy, but like on average, the best teams, their win percentage is like around like 700. So that's about right because their win percentage would be like 750.
Right.
That's kind of close.
This one I would like all of your opinions on this question. We'll start with you, Ryan. Do you guys – I know this isn't directly related to the coronavirus. They were planning on putting these rules in anyways. But do you guys like the rule of the universal DH that they're implementing for this season?
See, that's tricky because I really like the DH spot. I think that pitchers, I mean, sometimes you have pitchers that do really good job, and sometimes not. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it should be kept in the American League. But again, on the opposite side, if pitchers didn't hit, it would have a less probability that they would get hurt, which is good, or injured at the plate. So there's pros and cons to it.
I like
Yeah,
universal DH because it gives managers more options, more strategy for the game, you know, especially bench players who don't get a lot of time. Instead of coming in for a pinch hit, like one at bat, they could get 4 at bats or 3 at bats, you know. I like having the DH in both leagues.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest appearance, Scott Thomas.
Right. He's gone now.
He's gone.
No, saying back to your question, like Ryan said, there are pros and cons to each, but to me, again, I do like the DH position. I think it puts more, I think that gives more runs to the game. Like, it gives more attention on the game. There are, more home runs and stuff. However, I think the American League and the National League in general should either both have a DH or should both have pitchers hitting. I don't like how the American League has DH and the National League has pitchers because, say World Series time, that could truly, it may not seem like it, but that could truly mess up a team. Like, say a pitcher has to bat in a clutch spot.
But the question with that becomes, Ben, is then there's no difference between the American League and National League. Like, you have two different, there's no difference between either of them.
Well, yeah,
why call them two separate leagues?
In football and basketball, there's no difference between those two. They're still in different conferences.
That's true.
True. Good point.
Yeah.
So that's all for the MLB. We thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, you might as well hit that like and subscribe button if you're not already. Our 1v1 actually got delayed, me and Ryan's 1v1, due to an illness.
Don't scare him, Will. Jesus.
I said not corona, but we're hoping to get that done in the coming week.
It'll just be pushed back a week, so around July 8th. Around July 8th.
Around.
So be anticipating for that. That's when we're hoping.
For that one.
If not sooner. But we thank you guys for watching, as always.
Yes.
HFP out.
HFP out.